Welcome back, everybody. This is Grace or Gibby, whatever you prefer. And today I've got another Yulgar only quest guide for you guys. And I'm doing the latest Harvest Fest quest, Bark and Bite, on a level 135 adventure with a Ranger build. The Ranger build is not necessary, that's just the build I happen to have. And I'm going to be going through. The quest is not too difficult, not too complicated, but there are a couple of monsters that might catch you off guard. Make sure to hydrate, as I just did. And the reward for this quest that a lot of people are going after is the Winter Dryad Bark, which is an Ice Earth armor that has a melee skill, which does ice and harm Elivuln, as well as a backlash effect. So it's quite good for free-to-play warriors. Very useful armor. Synergizes with Anger Lenorm and Essence of Carnage. Very good for gold farming as well. So I recommend grabbing it if you have the time. So, the quest again, quite simple. The only complicated thing are a couple of monsters. One, there's a lot of ice monsters in the quest, so bring a good fire nuke if you have one. Two, there are two Gog fights. One, you're fighting two Gogs together, and the other, you're fighting the Gog plant Parmesan, whatever. Gog plant, like Earth version of the Gog. The normal Gogs sit in a neutral armor or an armor that's defensive against earth, ice, and energy, I believe, are the three elements they use. I just sat in my best defensive armor and I slowly attacked them. Ideally, you would have a nuke ready to use, so you could nuke it down to one Gog, so that you're taking half as much damage. I didn't have that, and I was still okay. You get a full heal right after the battle, so not to worry if you get on low HP at the end of the fight. The Gog plant is an earth, water, and energy version of the Gog, and it gives itself celerity so that it attacks multiple times, and it also has a blind effect if you're hit by the water attack. I believe it is. Now, the strength of that blind is based on your water resistance. So you might be thinking, oh, well, maybe I should be in a water armor with a water shield to lower my water resistance. Potentially true, but also know that the Gog does more damage with its earth attacks. So you might want to use an earth armor and an earth shield. You could go either way, to be honest. Or if you're someone who has access to auto hit skills or spells or weapons, or you use pets and guests for damage, as I mostly did that fight, it doesn't matter if you become blinded by the water attack. So I recommend being in an earth armor with either pets and guests or auto hit functions, so that the blind does not affect you. Otherwise, the Gog will just attack a bunch of times. It gives itself like super celerity. It doesn't do that much damage, so just don't worry about it. The next three monsters are the Dryads. So there's the Spring Dryad, the Fall Dryad, and the Winter Dryad. And these are kind of like the boss monsters of the quest, but they're not too hard. The Spring Dryad is the first one you fight, and it does an ability. It does a mana ability. So it casts an Earth spell when it has enough mana, and enough mana is about half its mana bar. So as long as it has half its mana bar, it will cast an Earth spell. So for the first two turns, you're going to want to be in an Earth armor, and then after that, you switch to a Water armor. The Dryad will slowly heal its mana through damaging you. So when it gets enough mana to cast another spell, which will be about half its mana bar again, then you'll want to switch back to your Earth armor, etc. So just keep in the defensive armor. Whether it can cast its spell or do a basic attack, stay in that right armor, and you'll be A-okay. The Fall Dryad attacks with Earth normally, and attacks with a Water spell for its SP attack. The Earth attack increases its SP regeneration, so it's usually, for me when I was fighting it, it usually attacked with Earth, then attacked with Water, then attacked with Earth, then attacked with Water. Let me double check if I have the right elements for that. If I have the wrong elements, I will say something now. Okay, so moving on, you'll just want to be in the correct defensive armor, and just keep an eye on its SP so you can change armor and shield when needed. Finally, the Winter Dryad is the one that has been catching people off guard. The reason it's catching people off guard is it has a backlash effect. The only element it attacks with is ice, but it also backlashes harm damage to you, effectively 200% of the damage dealt. Now, I don't think that 200% number is true because I was smacking it for a lot less damage or a lot of damage and only taking about 100% of the damage back. But you will take a lot of backlash damage if you're not careful. So, to circumvent this, you can do a couple of things. If you use pets and guests, you can just have your pets and guests do the damage while you either stall your turn, cast healing spells, restore your mana or SP through some method, or you can use low damage weapons or multi hit weapons so you have more chances to resist the backlash. Um, Me personally, I just attacked it and healed when I needed to. I think I used a health potion and a healing spell or two. Um, the only thing is you have to be really careful not to nuke the Dryad because it will blow you up with the backlash if you're not careful. So just take that fight slow, take a couple of turns to get him down slowly, and make sure your HP isn't too low, and you'll be just fine. It has a skill which makes you more vulnerable to ice and harm. Not really a big deal, not something to be concerned about if you're being careful with the backlash and in an ice armor. Now, the only other things I would say is Angra Linnorm and Essence of Carnage go hard because the Gogs backlash themselves very easily. The Dryads also have many multi-hit attacks, so they're good for backlash too. Using Ellie shields against the Gogs and against the Dryad, the Winter Dryad specifically, because the backlash is also affected by Ellie shields. Totally recommend doing that. Would really help you out. For the Gog Plant Parmesan, if you're struggling, or I think I'm calling it Gog Plant Parmesan, I think it's just called Gog Plant. If you're struggling, you could use one of two things. You could use the Serenia's Will armor or the Serenia's Blessing armor or Serenia's Soldier. I'm not exactly sure what it's called, but it's from the other Harvest Fest quest where you can act as Serenia to fight Karnal the Blighted. If you remember that quest, I think it's I have no idea. I think it's defend the burps, maybe. I don't know. I'll write it in the comments. To be honest, I'll write it in the description. If you don't know what quest it is, I'll put that quest in the description. And the other item is the Kurgween bow pet, which is found in the memorial shop in Yulgar's, because the Gog plant has 175 dark resist, so the Kurgween bow pet gives a very strong Ellie shield because it's based off dark resistance. That is pretty much it. Take the Gog slow, play defensive, nuke them if you can. Make sure you're in the right armor for the Dryad's skills and spells, and make sure to fight the Winter Dryad slowly so you don't get backlashed to death. Get this new Fighter Ice and Earth armor. It's fun to use, it's really good for free to play. And thank you for watching. I hope this guide helps, and I will see you all in the next one. Peace and love, everybody. Have a good one.